Until we convince our state legislators that, that cannabis is medicine, we're going to have a hard time really making much progress. We're going to talk a little bit about the legislative process today, though, so you get an idea of how this is going to work. I think that's important because it's going to take many of you to go out and sell this to your neighbors, your friends, and your local politicians, as well as your state representatives, in order to make something happen in the state of Florida. So I really want to give you some background. The legislature works in many ways like the mafia works. You have a few people that kind of control how everything happens, and they basically control the rest of the legislators in the way that they control the process. For instance, you have a Speaker of the House, you have the Majority Leader, maybe the Budget Chair, and a couple of other people, and they make decisions what bills get heard, which committees those bills go to, who sits on those committees, how many committees it's going to go to. They make decisions about where your office space is, how far away your parking space is from the House office building. And they use each one of these kinds of decisions as a power play to enable their legislation or their preferred legislation to pass. So we all have this idea that there's 120 of us state representatives here in the state of Florida. We have this idea that 120 of us go to Tallahassee with our best ideas, and we all get a chance to put them forward, exchange them, and the best ideas win out. Well, we know if that were the truth, then medical cannabis wouldn't be illegal in the state of Florida right now as it is, right? That's not how it works. How it works is the Speaker and his trusted lieutenants decide what legislation will even get a hearing. So the fact that I filed this year House Joint Resolution 353 doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get a hearing. In order for that to occur, we need to change the minds of the Speaker of the House, his lieutenants, and the chair of whichever committee that gets referred to. In this case, that's been referred to a committee chaired by Gail Harrell, who's up in Martin County. So what we've been trying to do is focus our efforts on leadership and changing their attitudes one person at a time. It's not an easy thing, and I'll tell you why. Right now in Florida, our legislature is controlled by the Republican Party, and this isn't going to be a partisan statement, by the way. I'm a Democrat, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. But what I was getting at is that generally Republicans tend to have a tougher stance on crime. So what they hear when you talk about cannabis is, well, if I support that, I'm going to be seen as soft on crime. So it's incumbent upon myself and all of you to be able to explain to them that cannabis is medicine, that it's not about criminal activity, unless, of course, we continue to criminalize it. So I think we've had some luck there, but we're really lucky this year. We do have someone up there 24/7, which we've never had in the past, fighting for you. Again, with Florida Can. Jodi James is in there. Jodi, can you just wave it over? I can't tell you what a difference this makes, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not lucky enough to speak in front of a room like this very often. If ever it's brought up that I'm the sponsor of the medical marijuana bill in the Florida Legislature, I'm likely to receive more snickers than I am applause. And so those folks who have been able to sign on with me are very brave individuals, because what they're doing is putting their political future on the line by supporting something they believe in. Now, it shouldn't have to be that way. We all know that. But that's just the reality of the situation that they're in. So my co-sponsors, and they include from here in Palm Beach County, Mark Pafford, from St. Petersburg, Rick Kreisman, from down in Miami, Dwight Bullard, and from up in Tallahassee, Rochelle Raywinkle Vasalinda. They've done an amazing thing just putting their name on the bill, because they also have to endure those snickers. And I can't say enough about the courage of Senator Larcinia Bullard down in Miami, who became our senator sponsor. You know, it's tough to walk into a room of people who don't know as much about medical cannabis as we know in this room, and see the attitudes. So she's really done an amazing thing by agreeing to become my Senate sponsor. I know she's not here today, but it really is an amazing thing that she's done, putting her neck out and saying that this is something I believe in. And this is how change happens everywhere in our country. This is how change happens on every issue. It's how it's happened in the 17 other states that have medical cannabis. Maybe somebody in my district who has MS or has some end-of-life issues, some pain issues that they need to deal with. How tough is it to look those people in the eye and say, well, I don't want to help you? These are the kinds of things that we all need to be doing. That's how the legislative process is going to work, one legislator at a time. So in giving you that sense of how the legislature works in Tallahassee, I wanted to let you know it's not so simple as filing a bill and then getting people to vote on it. I have to work hard just to even get them to think about giving the bill a hearing. And that's where you come in. Because if they're hearing from their constituents, if they're hearing from the people who vote in their elections, that's what's going to make the difference here in the state of Florida. Not just filing the bill, but each one of you in this room figuring out who your local state representative is, figuring out who your local state senator is, and contacting their office. And don't be put off by just sending an email. Make an appointment. Go see them, call them, sit down with them. Give them examples. You know, when we held the first press conference on this issue in Tallahassee in last March, we had folks there who have ALS. Kathy Jordan has ALS. We have people who have MS. People who are really suffering. Well, you notice that none of the people who snickered were there in that room, because you can't find a way to laugh at people who are suffering and tell them and look them in the eye and tell them that I'm going to take away your right to be able to deal with that pain. And I know everybody in this room has a story like that, knows somebody that's suffering. As Robert said, he was caught up by my aide when he was leaving the room. You know, my legislative aide had breast cancer. So she dealt with that. She's a survivor. She dealt with that issue. Each one of us have these personal stories. That's how we're going to change legislators' minds, one person at a time with those personal stories. And it's too bad that we have to do that, but that's just how it works. So I guess what I'm here to say today is that, you know, I appreciate the hand and all the support. We need to get to those people who are not the believers. We need to get to those people who may be willing to listen. And we need to get to those people who can change their hearts and minds, because that's how we're going to make a difference in the state. I would urge each one of you to check out the bill, and I should be real clear about that. I know it's a resolution, a joint resolution to the state of Florida is what you file to put an item on the ballot for people to vote for a constitutional amendment. So I need to be real clear about that. I know a lot of people say, well, why are we doing these kinds of ceremonial things like a resolution? In Florida, a House joint resolution is what you do what you file in order to be able to put a ballot item on as a constitutional amendment. So well, make sure by any time. But if you talk to me, you're preaching to the choir. Get out and talk to those folks whose hearts and minds need to be changed, and do that with those personal stories, those stories, unfortunately, of suffering, of people who need the help. Because that's what we're here working for. That's what I'm up in Tallahassee working for. And that's the way we're going to make a difference here in the state of Florida. Robert, thank you so much for doing this.